Before we start, I'll just introduce myself very briefly. I'm Joy Song. I run a marketing consultancy for small, medium-sized businesses. Together with a technology partner, we would deliver technology solutions such as apps, websites, landing pages. And now we're about to launch out, or we have actually just launched our SEO services. So more than an app developer, web designer, or SEO provider, simply because I do have a lifetime of marketing experience, I would normally love to work with the business to ensure that together we are able to generate some results from your investment. So it's not a marketing expense, hopefully, when I work with the business, but rather an investment when that happens. Moving on to what we're covering today. Couple of things I'd like to touch on. So obviously we're going to talk about what it is, what Google My Business is all about, how it can really help your business, how is it relevant to you. And because we have a lunchtime webinar, it's a short, snappy webinar, I'm just going to cover the top 3 things to do when setting up your Google My Business profile. And we're going to talk about optimizing a profile, Google reviews, how you can get them quickly, and also a little bit on citations. And finally, I'll talk about how we can help you and support you if you want me to help you do that. And if you want to reach out to me later on, you can do so. And I'll tell you how. For this webinar, I feel that it's important to talk about what we're not covering in this lunchtime webinar. So this webinar is really not about SEO for your website, although they're relevant, but rather I'm focusing on Google My Business itself as a service, a free service. We're not going to talk about pay-per-click ads as well, or cover anything to do with your website analytics or YouTube or other Google tools and platforms, of which we know there are many of these tools. So just focusing on local SEO. So Google My Business, what is it? It's a free service that Google has, which allows a business to create, verify, and edit information and have a listing, a free listing in Google without needing to do any extra work to your website. You don't even need to be a tech whiz to do that. All you need to do is to be able to set up, to have a business and to set up your Google page on Google My Business. So Google developed this service as a way to make it easier for people who search for products and services locally to get information they need quickly. And so depending on the industry category you're in, Google can also even allow you to include a booking system, a booking device, online food ordering button, and also menus as well. So that is subject to the discretion of Google when you do submit your information to Google for verification. So on that last point, about what Google allows you to do, let me just give you an example. So for example, if you're a restaurant and then you, of course, you want to be listed on Google My Business because you want to attract your local customers. Sometimes you notice that when you Google a particular restaurant local to you, there is a little button that you can click. This is your call to action, and sometimes this goes straight to Deliveroo if that restaurant has a relationship with Deliveroo, and therefore this allows the visitor to bypass your website altogether, or have to go to your app store because they just need to click on to Deliveroo, which has a web app feature, and they'll be able to order from the menu straight away via Deliveroo. Now, I'm not saying all of this to let you know that you don't need to do any SEO work on your website. That's totally not true at all. But rather, you need to do the SEO on your website. That is part and parcel of the SEO work, and you also need to ensure that what you say on your website is indeed consistent and relevant to what you say on this Google My Business page that you have. But optimizing your Google My Business profile can actually be a separate project for you, and you can do that on your own. You can get started on your own. You don't need to be a tech whiz to do that. You just need some time and commitment to get started on setting your Google account up. So how can Google My Business help you Exactly. So it can help you in a couple of ways. One of them is obviously you want to be more visible and you want to be searchable. Your prospects and your customers, they are online, so that's where they'll typically start their search for your product or service. And this is especially the case if they don't know your brand, they don't know you straight away. They're just looking for a particular product or service to buy. And also, secondly, you could, if you have an account set up, it could allow you to keep your customers informed very quickly. Um, you don't have to leave your customers guessing about your business details, especially if they've changed. And this is especially so with Google My Business during the lockdown. You are able to then change your opening hours details and any special messages, for example, that you want to leave for your customers during the lockdown period. You could use that Google page that you have set up to inform your customers quickly that way. So that's quite a useful mechanism or channel to have. And thirdly, it builds consumer confidence and trust as well. And to do that, you can use your Google reviews because setting up an account allows you to get as many Google reviews as possible from your customers and from your audience. And obviously, the more of these positive Google reviews that you have on your account, the more searchable and more visible you have. And therefore, that builds consumer confidence. So on this point, I'll just make a note to say that this is different. This is search marketing. It's part of your local search. And local search is important for a business because people searching for products and services already have an intention to buy at some point, and that's quite an important thing to note. And it may not be now, it may be sometime in the future, but this is part of search marketing, and that's different. It's quite different to social media marketing, which is essentially you stopping the scroll, you stopping your customers from scrolling and telling your customers how great you are, how you can help them, what you're doing at this point in time with your business, and how you can help your customers. So they're both two different ways of marketing to your potential customers. And I would say in this day and age, you would need both types of channels in order to reach out to your customers. And this is more so if you're reaching out to, shall we say, a younger target audience, such as the millennials, the Generation Zs, and Generation X as well, to a certain extent, because people of these generations would expect a business to be reachable via various channels. So not just on social media, they would expect you to have a website, and if you have a Google My Business page, they would expect to be able to reach out to you there. Oh, Peter has a question here. How do you set up an account? Okay, I'll take you through the account setting in a minute, Peter, but that's a relevant question if you haven't got an account set up. So moving on to, so yeah, there's a little bit of stat here. If I can direct your attention here to the slide, there's a 500% increase. There's been a 500% increase in the number of near me searches containing phrases such as "can I buy?" over the past 2 years. So that's quite a startling statistic. And that just shows that if your business doesn't show up on Google Maps, then potential customers may just go somewhere else to find what they want. The other stat I'd like to point out is recently, if you look on Google Trends, that you will notice that people have started searching since the lockdown, which is around March, towards the end of March. And the red line here denotes searches for phrases that contain "open near me," as opposed to the blue line at the bottom, which is a bit lower down, for phrases that contain "what is open." So that goes to show that since lockdown, searches that contain the phrases "open near me" or "open near a particular location," wherever that location is, has become more prominent. People are searching for things, for services, for products that are actually near them. So that's quite noteworthy. So what does that mean for you? Well, if your business is based in a particular location, say you operate in Islington, then you most definitely, and you have an office or shop front, or you operate from home, if that's where you see your customers, then most definitely if someone was searching for your product or service, your category of business, in and around Islington, then definitely you want to be found, because that is assuming that you would like to entertain customers that are near you. Right, so moving on to the next slide. So here we're talking about the actual Google My Business account itself. So back to Peter's question earlier on, which I'll try and answer here. To set up Google My Business account, it's quite easy. You just need to go on to Google My Business. And you will then need to request to be verified by Google. So what you can do is open an account with Google and provide some details that Google would need in order to verify your business. So whatever information you provide there, Google will need to verify. And one of the first things they will verify is the name of the business and the address that you put down with Google, that you tell Google when you start your account. And Google will then verify you in basically two ways of verifying your business. The first way would be Google will then send you a postcard after you've set up your account. Google sends you a postcard with a code on it. So you receive a physical postcard sent to the address you tell Google to send to, and you will then key in a code once you get the postcard. And that's normally within 4 to 7 days, you should get the postcard. And once you key in that code on your Google My Business account, Google will then be able to verify you. The other way, which is quicker, is via the phone. So it's an automated phone system. Again, Google gives you, I think, a number that you dial, and it reads out a code to you. You then key in the code onto your account, and that's how they verify your business. And then from there, you've got an account. So what do we do next after we get the account? And this is what this particular slide will be talking about. So yeah, so a couple of things to note before I go on to this page. I think this is the first page that you see once you open your account, once your account is set up. And on here, this is the menu. You can see all the tabs that are listed here. So I would say complete all tabs for your business, and you need to be thorough in the information that you provide, especially on this section called information. If you click on information, this are the key information that you will need to provide to Google. And also, when you complete your profile, use keywords which you have identified. For example, some keywords which you know you want to be identified for on your website. Use these in your Google profile when you type in your text. And also, don't forget to also, under the products and services tab as well, because they're right near the bottom, sometimes you might forget them. So under products and services, it is also important to complete information on your services or your products. You don't necessarily have to provide the full description on your products. What I can suggest is you can match your products and services that you have on your website. If you're already keyed in on your website, you can match this with the relevant pages here. So for example, you can set up links. That's totally fine. Set up a link to your website to say, for example, for more information, please click on this link, and that goes straight to your website. So you're setting up a link from Google page to your website that way. But it's important to provide some information in that particular section. The other thing to note is don't keep changing the information that you've provided, especially the key information which you have here, such as the name of your business, for example. Because if you do that, then you run the risk of Google penalizing you for changing the important bits of your information. And when that happens, then it might take quite some time for Google to put you to allow you to go back up again. So that's quite important to know. So what I would suggest is if you are filling in information for your profile, have a think about what sort of information you want up there, and be sure that that's information you want Google to know before you submit. Otherwise, then you might run into some problems with Google penalizing. I had a bad experience a couple of years ago when I was changing my business. I used the same Google My Business account, but I changed the business name and I changed certain details on the business, and that was a big mistake because of that mistake I made, Google took my profile off for a couple of weeks. It was a couple of weeks before they actually agreed to put up the profile again. So I hope you won't make that mistake, which I've made before. Now, the other thing to note is that when someone Googles your business, your particular name, sometimes you see on your right panel, that's the right information panel that would pop up with your business details. Ideally, you will want Google to do that for you when you set up an account. So there are two things you would expect. One is Google Maps. You would expect to have a pin on Google Maps when someone Googles you with the name of your business there and directions to your address. And secondly, you would hope that Google would allow you a panel on the right-hand side when someone searches for your products or service, a right-hand panel with, again, your information, name of your business, and information on the right panel. That's something we can't necessarily control. You have more control over your listing of Google Maps, but on the right-hand panel, if you want to appear there, obviously every particular business would want to be on that right panel. That's up to Google to decide when to put you up there. And the way to increase the likelihood of Google giving you that panel space, advertising space, free advertising space, is of course to make sure that your account is optimized and that you've got all the information that Google asks for up here on this tabs here, with all the menu tabs here on the left. Right, so going on to these three orange arrows, which I have, the first arrow you see at the top, these are your categories which Google would ask you to fill in. So Google would typically allow you a primary category. So you would need to tell Google what your primary category is in your business. So in my case, this is my example. My primary category is marketing consultant. And then thereafter, you're allowed to select from a drop-down list, a list of subcategories where you want to be searchable for. So it would be very useful to fill in those subcategories as well. You don't get to customize the category, meaning to say that it's a list of drop-down categories. So you will have to follow the subcategories that are given to you there and select the ones that are closest to your business. And then obviously you want to put an address down as well. Now, if you operate from home, as many of us do, then it's perfectly fine to put your home address down, but you can tell Google that you don't want to be publicizing you don't want your home address to be published. That's possible as well. So not to worry. You would still need to provide an address, a business address, an office or shop, or your home address, just for verification purposes only. And then you can decide if you want your home address to be published or not. But normally it will have to be the full address there. And also service areas. Service areas may or may not be relevant to you. Essentially, they're the areas where you want your customers, where you want your customers to know where you go to visit them to provide the service, or where you will deliver your service or your product to your customers. So this is called service area, and you're allowed up to 20 service areas here. So may or may not be relevant to some businesses here, as I said, but it's still important for you to put a location down, even though it could be just one location that you operate in. On that note, I'm just going to go back to the top bit, which is the category. I think it's important before you decide on the categories that you want to be found under to do a quick Google search, or go to Google Trends, which will give you an idea as to the keywords that people are searching for. So that would be quite a useful exercise to do before you actually decide what your categories of business is going to be. So, for example, I worked with a physiotherapist, or I think a psychologist or a physiotherapist. She called herself a physiotherapist, and that's her description on her Google account. However, when we did a quick search in Google Trends, we discovered that a lot more people were actually searching for psychologists rather than a psychotherapist or a psychotherapist. So a psychologist ranked a lot higher than a psychotherapist. So she then decided she would change her category to a psychologist. So that's just an example. Would be a useful exercise to have before you decide on the categories. So Kay says, I had a problem on Google My Business recently where it wanted to delete one of the services I offer, which I do offer. Presumably someone said that I don't offer the service, but perhaps they didn't know. Okay, that's an interesting question, Kay. I don't think I've come across that before, but I'm happy to have a chat with you after this, if that's all right, after this talk, and we'll ask you a few questions about that. So moving on. Yeah, so just want to touch on posts here. On this left-hand menu, there's a section called Posts, which you would be asked to provide. Normally, it would be a good idea to put some information on this page. What I can suggest is if you are posting content on your socials, then it's always a good idea to repurpose some of that content on your socials onto your Google page. The posts that you put here normally will stay for a week, after which Google will take it off. Unless you put a date, an end date there, in which case then Google will leave the post there until the end date. So some of the stuff that you can put in there would be, for example, any updates, lockdown updates that normally appears quite prominently on your Google pages. Because Google deems it important to give it prominence, whatever information you'd like to give regarding the lockdown and your business. You can add an offer there, you can add a quick update, you can add an event, and it could be a webinar or it could be a face-to-face event. And also you can add a new product which you are launching, for example. So these are the bits of information that you can fill in. It'd be a good idea to check in once a week if you can and repurpose some of the information that you that are posting on your website or your socials and repurpose them here on this page. Sometimes it could be just a matter of having a little summary, a description of the content and setting up a link to your website or your socials to say for more information, refer to this page, and that would suffice. So any more on this topic? I think that's the main thing that I would want to say. The other thing is, the other thing I'd like to add is if you do have a blog on your website, you do write blogs on your website, then it's again a good idea to also mention the blogs here as well. So again, you could have a little summary of what your blog is about, and you could have it under event updates or what's new, and then set up a link to your website, your blog page on your website. That's possible as well. And don't worry about duplicating content there, because Google will recognize, as long as your blog page is optimized, indexed by Google, Google will know that that content belongs to you, and then you can repurpose that across your different channels. So next I'm going to go on to getting reviews, and that's one of the quickest and easiest and one of the most effective ways of optimizing your Google My Business profile and getting more traffic coming into your Google pages. So there are two quick ways of doing it, of getting more reviews, Google reviews. The first way is if you do it yourself from your smartphone. Before you do that, then there are two things. Of course, you need to have set up your account already, and your account would have been verified by then. And secondly, you need to download your Google My Business app. There's an app, it's a free app that you can download onto your phone. So on your phone app, Google My Business app, if you open up your app, you will see this page pops up. Again, I'm using my business account as an example. So this page pops up with your images and the name of your business, and you will see the menu here. And there would be a tab called reviews. So if you click on reviews quickly, it'll go straight onto the reviews that you've already collected. What you can do is you can then ask your customers or whoever you're interacting with at that point in time. So this could be an event or workshop that you're conducting. If it's a physical workshop, then that's a very easy thing to do. You can, at the end of the workshop, you can ask your customers, people attending your workshop, to then quickly go onto their smartphone and give you a review that way. So when you ask them to give a review, it would be a good idea for them to not only give you a rating, 1 to 5 stars, but also for them to ask them to give you a bit of feedback as well, qualitative feedback. So it could be a one-liner, two-liners. It's just so that it doesn't then make your review look spammy. So Google always looks out for reviews with a bit of information on them. Another way to do it quickly is for you to do it yourself, actually, from your own app. You go onto your own Google My Business app where you log into your own account. You will see click onto reviews, and you see all your reviews listed there. And on the top of your review panel, sorry, not reviews, but customers, click onto customers. And on your customer tab, you will see all the reviews from your previous customers. You then look out for this little icon, share icon here. Click onto the share icon. You will then see a box that pops up, which then allows you to share this review link in a post or to share as a private message. So you can share it across all your socials as well. So for example, I've chosen to share this link, this review link on my Google account to my network. And that would be one quick way of sharing the review link, asking your network to give you a quick review there. So these are two quick ways where you could be collecting reviews here. Right. Going back to Sonia. Sonia asked, would that include blog entries as well? Yes, the answer is you could post your blogs on your Google account as well, or you could just have a little abstract, a little summary there, telling people that you've just posted a new blog, and you could set up a link then to your website blog page for people to refer to. So that way, you're setting up links from your Google page to your website, your blog page on your website or your blog site. So I hope that answers your question, Sonia. So that's reviews for you. I'll move on to the next section, which is essentially covering citations. So what are citations? Citations are essentially, it's a backlink building exercise. You are trying to set up as many of these links from highly authoritative, highly trusted directories or websites, and some of these directories offer a listing, and a lot of the time the listings that they offer your business is free of charge. So in doing so, you're setting up links from their directory or their site to your Google page. And by listings, I mean just simply listing your name, your address, and your phone number. And these are the three main bits of information, and also your website link as well. So in doing so, you are then essentially telling Google that you are to be trusted, so to speak, because Google will then look at the number of directories, highly trusted directories or sites that you've been listed. And Google will then say, okay, these people do trust you, and therefore Google will then trust your Google page a little bit more. So that's essentially what's happening there. the way it's done is because these are highly trusted authoritative sites and directories. They would normally require you to verify your business. So this could be either a quick email to check you are who you say you are. Quite often it's a phone call. For example, with Yale, somebody from Yale would typically call you once you set up your listing on the Yale site. You would then typically receive a call from Yale verifying all the details that you have up there. So that's how they verify you. And once they are able to verify you as a business, you will then be published. Your listing will then be published on these websites. So this process can take a couple of weeks for the verification to complete. And the other thing to make sure is when you are being listed on these directories, it is important to make sure that the information that you give, which is essentially your name, your business address, your telephone numbers, your link setup, that the information is consistent across all the different directories. And by consistent, I would mean, for example, if you spell out your business address as in full, the road name, you spell out road, for example, ROAD, and in another listing, if you were to just use RD instead of ROAD, that does matter as well. So just ensure that the information you give is consistent. So it'd be good to cut and paste the exact same details that you have on one listing and make sure that you're able to paste the same details across all these directories for consistency's sake. So I have here a list of these examples of top local citation sites in the UK, and you can get this source from Bright Local. So Bright Local would normally publish a list of top sites, national sites, global sites as well, directories where you can be listed. So if you do have some time, it's a good idea to go through the listings. And if you want to do so yourself, you can. So you see numbers listed here. These are your domain authority. So they would start from 1 to 100. The higher the number is, the more highly trusted generally the site is. So this slide gives you an example of all the sites that you would normally want to be listed. These are normally general directories that you can be listed in, and that would apply across many different types of businesses. Next, this is generated from Bright Local, and this gives you a list of industry-specific directories that you might want to consider being listed under. So in this case, this is for a restaurant. So these are industries that are listings or directories that are specific to the restaurant industry. So you can see some examples here which are quite familiar to all of us: TripAdvisor, OpenTable, so on and so forth, which you want to be listed under. Some of these listings are free and some are paid listings. But almost all do offer a free listing section. So the thing to notice when you do get yourself listed on these directories, sometimes they would ask you to pay for extra advertising. For example, if you want to be listed on a premium position on their directory, they would try and sell you a bit of advertising. You're not obliged to say yes. You're not obliged to do that. If they allow you a free listing, then that's all you need to do in many of these cases. But they would need to verify you in order to publish your details there. Right, so I think that covers citations. I'll go on quickly to help for your business. I have cut and pasted my scheduler on the chat box, which you can see. So if you do want to benefit from a complimentary 45-minute review of your account, your Google My Business account, if you've already got that set up, I'm happy to arrange a call with you and go through your account with you. If you haven't got a Google My Business account set up, that's fine. We can help you get one set up as well quite quickly there. This service is offered to you complimentary, so I don't charge for anything. You're not obliged to sign up to our paid SEO services. And next, I just want to quickly touch on to our launch offer. As we've recently launched our SEO services, we do have a full package of SEO services available to help you get your website optimized, as well as to help you with your local SEO, which is to set up and optimize your Google My Business page. If you want to take advantage of that offer, we are able to offer our SEO services to you at a substantially reduced rate for the first 3 months. No contract, you're free to terminate at any time. So we're here to offer you a 50% discount if you want to take up our full package of SEO services here. SEO is an ongoing process, so typically it will take between 3 to 6 months, just depending on the competition there are for your business, for you to actually see results coming in to your website, and also to your Google My Business page. So normally we would recommend at least 3 months to work with you for 3 months for you to see results coming in. So again, if you want to know more about this service that we provide, just book an appointment with me in the chat box. The link that I've sent you on the chat box itself.